Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this episode of Small Business Success Talk. I am your host, Christy Smallwood, and thank you so much for joining me today in Christy's Corner. And I know that there's a lot of Christy's Corner all in a row. I apologize for that. I've been a little behind on scheduling my guests, but that will be changing here shortly as I've got some on the calendar. So the interviews will be back up and raring to go here, hopefully by the end of the year, at least at the first of the year. We'll have some more guests, would be fantastic. I really, if you haven't heard me say it before, I'm really stoked. I really enjoy doing this show. So thank you for showing up and listening. And ideally, you'd be getting some value out of it every time you listen. I also want to give a shout out to my local chamber office, the St. Matthews, the Chamber of St. Matthews. I appreciate these people so much. We did a workshop there. They let me host a workshop in the conference room last week. So, your chamber is there to provide assistance in all kinds of ways. And today we had an event this morning for one of our groups, and we did a white elephant thing for the holiday season. And it was just a riotous time of fun and frivolity. I don't even know how to explain it. And it kind of was not PG. These are a bunch of business owners and professionals, and it was in the morning, y'all. It was in the morning, and we are already just being our authentic selves, as we might say that out in the world. And if you've ever done a white elephant gift exchange that somebody brought something that wasn't so PG, then you know what I'm talking about. That's how this morning was. So I love working with my small business owners. I love being in this environment because it's full of determined and creative people who want to make a difference in the world. And that's how we live out our days. That's one of the reasons I love doing this podcast show, because it gives you other people who are a lot like you in that success means something different for everybody. At the end of the day, though, which I thoroughly hate that phrase, if somebody has a better one, come up with it. At the heart of it, it is about freedom to do that which you know that you have been designed to do, or you have a passion for, or you have the creative juices have started flowing and you just want to be able to make some money from it without being hindered by somebody else's rules. And the flip side of that is, as a business owner, you may have employees who ideally would not feel that way about working for you. Like, you want them to want to work for you. So that all being said, is small business is all about relationships. And it just drives home to me, and I crack up every time I think back to the time frame when I was getting trained as a coach, life coach. I call it executive coach, but as a coach, professional training for it. And there was a module, they walked us through the different business models that we could, or niches, whatever you want to call it. The getting to the specifics of a lane that we wanted to pick and stay in. So styles, are you going to be a marketing coach, or a business coach, or a C-suite level executive coach? Or are you going to be a health coach, or, this and that and the other coach? And well, they came to one section about a relationship coach, and me, if you haven't been around at all, I'm single and slightly jaded. And I was like, whatever. I'm not doing that. I'm not doing relationship coaching. And she just kind of went, okay. Like, well, that's not where I'm not going to niche myself into that, because I don't think I'm great at it. And she just went, okay, because she's already been there, done that. She knows. So fast forward to, actually it didn't take all that long, a couple of years into having my own business where I'm doing both marketing and business coaching and training, and all of the things melded into one. I was like, oh, why are we handling so many relationship therapy sessions here? Because that's all I felt like I was doing there for a time, until I really started just owning the fact that, oh, okay, it's all about relationship and how we communicate with each other. So when you figure out, when that hits you in your own business, and you start to look at how you function in the business differently, it will change your world. Literally, everybody around you will start to change because you are showing up different. So when you understand that small business, whether you start it, you build it, you grow it, it's all about having relationships with other people and yourself. So, starting with you, what kind of relationship do you have with yourself? Are you berating yourself all day? Are you self-doubting? Are you having negative self-talk? Are you just putting junk in and junk comes out? Like, how are you? What's the relationship you have with yourself? And I say some of the stuff tongue in cheek because I know whenever I screw up, I'm like, Christy, you're such a dumbass. I don't say that anymore, but when I started catching myself saying that, I was like, wait, would I actually, somebody had said the question, would you tell your best friend that? Or would you say that to your grandma? I'm like, no, I wouldn't. So why do you do it to yourself? I'm like, well, we are our own worst critic. Do you have to be? No, you know what? I don't. Why can't I be my best cheerleader too? It's being open to the idea of actually being nice to yourself will change it. Everything else starts to change. That's that center of the ripples, right? That's the rock you throw in the water. That starts creating a ripple effect through everything else. Because you also have a relationship with your team in your business. So how you're showing up when you walk in the doors, your team already knows if you're in a good mood or bad mood. And how you interact with your team is developing the relationship. Do you know more than one thing about your teammates? It was interesting to hear recently a story of somebody who worked at a company and their boss learned one thing about them. And whenever they had the lunch, the annual lunch kind of thing, they can look at you, or it becomes the only thing that they ask about in your life. How's the dog? 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 Like there is no, oh wait, you coach little league while you're at it? Oh, I didn't know that. There was no additional curiosity to it. It was the one thing that the boss checked off the list. I know something personal about my employee and I'll ask them something personal. I'll make it personal. And there's only the one question. No, get to know your people. They're human beings with full lives that they are coming to you and you're paying for them to work. Now, if you only look at your people as machines that come in and do the work and leave, shame on you. You're completely missing the point of having a business in the first place. While, yes, a business should have revenue, that's the output of a successful business model, that everything's working is revenue. Like bottom line, you have a profit margin. Yay, congratulations. But if that's the only thing that you're concerned about, you're missing out on the full experience of small business. I've not met very many people that's the only thing that they're concerned about. So and if you're listening to this podcast on any regularity, I'm not concerned about you either. But if you know somebody, you might be like, dude, you're missing out. They just miss out on a full, abundant experience of what small business success can really be. Okay. So your team, and there's all kinds of things you can do to build the relationship, and it's not just pizza parties. Be individual with them. Grab them for 10 minutes and be like, what's happening here? What happened good for you this week? You could do I can't even remember what the method's called. It doesn't matter. What's been something good that's happened to you this week? What challenge are you having this week? And how can I help you overcome that? Like, as simple as that. And your people will open up, and you have to be willing to let them open up. All right. And no matter what they say, because like immediately what came into my head was like, but what if they pour out their heart story, or what if they start bitching about working at my place, and what if they come across as sounding entitled and oh woe is me and poor me, and I have to listen to that? I'm like, yep. Let them use their words because that's what you really want. Let them say what they need to say, and you don't have to have a response right then and there. Do your best as a leader. One of the hard things to do is not have a reaction to something that might off-put you, but you stay present with them because it's them and their story. That way you can formulate a response. There are tools in a communication. So relationship really is at the crux of it, communication. Like you need really good communication to build a strong relationship. So when you're in a situation where people are kind of making you feel bad about yourself or second guessing, or like, you need to give yourself some sort of space in this conversation to be able to process what was just given you. One of the things that I use is just that pause of, okay, I hear you. I probably need to know a little bit more about that. So tell me a little bit more. So instead of me having an opinion that I would throw right back at them, I tell myself, wait, you don't have all the detail. Get more detail. That way, I'm now controlling the conversation because I'm asking the questions. That's the old sales trick. If I'm the one asking the questions, I can control the direction of this conversation a whole lot better. But that means I have to have self control and not let my ego get in the way. So it's a little back to the relationship with myself. Am I paying attention to that while I'm communicating with others? Other people that you are building relationships with are your target audience. Just people in general that are out there, and you want them to be attracted to the business that you have, because you want to be able to put them into this whole pipeline of touch points along the way that help in this path to qualify them as a high qualified prospect that you convert to a client or customer, whatever. But on that front end, you kind of need people to like you. So how do you do that? Well, you start to build a relationship. Think about how celebrities do that, right? They have fans, they have the fan clubs. Taylor Swift, honestly, is just a phenomenal example of how she builds this relationship with her fans. In the 80s, 90s was Princess Diana. I've just finished watching what got current with The Crown on Netflix. And just to be reminded of the impact she had, it's not like she knew millions of people, but millions of people felt like they had a relationship with her. So, how do you do that for your own brand, for your own business? And it's all on how you're communicating out to build that relationship and that connection in your audience. So, think about that. There are ways to do it. And that's why people will hire me sometimes to help to be more strategic in their relationship communication messaging in their marketing, just getting very strategic about it. Other people that you're communicating with, your clients. So once you've done all of this work to bring a client in, how do you keep them happy? Well, you're building a relationship with them. If you have customers who are coming back to buy your products, is the experience to actually come buy the product worth it for them? Even if you have an online shop, is the experience of that, are they developing a good relationship with your brand? Because are you following through? Is it an ease of purchase? Is it pleasant of a purchase process? Things like that help build a relationship with the brand, even if nobody ever has a phone conversation with me. Think of your vendors and your referral partners as well. I have all kinds of ideas of things I want to do. And part of me is just, carving out that time on the calendar. But what I have done in the past, especially for my clients, is put them all together in one room and let them network and let them mastermind together. And I was like, oh, this is so smart. They love knowing each other because they're other business owners. So it's a VIP experience for my clients whenever we get to do that. Now, the other thing about small business, working with small business, are the family owned ones. And that's a huge chunk of small business out there. Family owned and operated businesses are a whole different dynamic. And I chuckle and laugh and I'm like, because I'm an only child and these people bring me in to help, and I'm an only child. But it does give me a very unique perspective because I sometimes, depending on how the client and I are relating to each other, sometimes I'm able to look at them and go, why the hell do you do that? Why did you just have to? Why did you feel the need to say that to your spouse? Or why are you guys arguing about this? in a group of siblings, and they're like, and I have heard this before. Well, so and so did this when they were 10. This stems back from when we were 10. Y'all, they're in their 40s and 50s. That was decades ago. And you're bringing it up today. Oh, family businesses, man. They don't forget anything about you. And they know you, y'all know each other at way more of an intimate level than, let's just say, regular business partners. Intimate level. I have heard stories. I know a thing or two because I have definitely seen and heard a lot. So, family businesses crack me up. I love them though. They're fantastic. And I think that as a small business model, small to medium business, family owned businesses, man, really do just tug at the heartstrings. Like they know their reasoning, they know their purpose, they know what drives them. They can get there faster. They've got the story, faster. It's just beautiful. I love it. I love it, love it, love it. Legacy is good, is awesome for them. And I laugh every time. I laugh at these people with these people a lot because again, when I just have a question, I'm like, why? They have to try to explain it. And then I just kind of give them one of those looks that says, really? Why would you? Are you sure? And then that's when I'm like, oh, I guess that didn't sound quite as no. I would suggest you stop that if you could. here's how we can here's some options on how we can shift that. Uh so family businesses. If you are in one right now, you know why I'm laughing. Thanksgiving looks different. The really healthy family businesses know what those boundaries are. When I say Thanksgiving, that they know they can leave business at business. Family time is family time. So you talk about family and all of the other things that are good to talk about, and then they've placed the boundaries around it. But that's still come into an agreement about the communication. So even when you put boundaries around, we can have these conversations at work, but not at home. Let's set up a time for that. Let's discuss that thing then. Setting up good boundaries is also very important when it comes to small business. It's even for if you don't have a family owned and operated business. Let's say you're the one starting a business and your spouse is at home and they work for somebody else. Y'all, everybody gets home about 6 o'clock, whatever. You got to take care of the kids, dinner, yada, yada, yada. Well, but you've decided somebody's called you, you still have a couple things to do. The spouse is not happy about that. Well, understandably. And then it becomes over time a conversation of, well, you just don't understand how I'm trying to build this business. And, the other person may be like, you don't understand. I just want your time. Exactly. You guys are not on the same page. So for you as a small business owner, one of the challenges is to not have it turned on 24/7. It is one of our biggest challenges as an entrepreneur is to turn it off every now and then to let our brains take a break and be present with the people that we love. So pay attention, especially during the holiday season. Make sure you've got some solid boundaries in place to be able to provide that for your families. All right. So when things go really well, let me back up a hot second because I'm looking at my list of family businesses. And then, of course, a lot of small business communities, we have volunteer involvement. We hardly ever just stay in our own business. We volunteer somehow. And it could be through one of our favorite charities, or it could be through, I'm a board member on the chamber. I do some other additional volunteer work in the chamber. And I've got a couple other associations that I'm a part of and I'm on boards. So that's my volunteer time. And sometimes, even that requires a high level of communication to be able to work together on a volunteer basis on a team to move things forward. You're there because it's a good cause, it's a good reason, but you're not getting paid. So you're really doing this because you enjoy it. And out of the goodness of your heart, for one, and two, because it's something that apparently jazzes you, right? You're putting good vibes out in the world for a reason. So when things go really well in business, relationships, Some great examples. One of my favorites is Walt and Roy Disney, family owned and operated business turned global empire. Those guys, complete opposites. I'm sure you've heard about these guys. Walt being the no limit, creative, innovative, all over the place kind of guy, and Roy being the very logical and sensible financial auditor. Walt would have the big ideas and Roy would be like, how much? What is it going to take to get this done? And so they balanced each other very well. And nobody's ever perfect, not even Disney. However, they are a shining example of how to make it work really well. So why not follow those who have done great business like that? Find those people in your own community who are amazing family owned businesses that continue on in such an amazing way because they're willing to work through the shitstorms that come along, and boy are there. So when it works really well, you can see the intentional work they've done to become healthy in their relationships, and a lot of that stems back to communication skills. Now, what happens when things go wrong? That's when a shit show becomes a shit storm. So got a story for you. Got an example here. Locally, I've got some friends who are in a wedding industry, and there's a couple of different groups and associations and all that kind of stuff in the area. So there was a group meeting lately. This has been a couple of months ago, a few months ago, and one of my friends happens to handle the marketing for this group, helps get them promoted, helps handle the live events, does all of the work at like less than half the cost. I'm like, she does not charge them hardly anything to cover some basic costs of doing it because that's her volunteer work. She volunteers mostly and charges very little, but she's consistent, and it has helped this group grow tremendously. So all of that context in the back end to be leading up to this group meeting night where there was one guy in the room who apparently did not agree with having her do any of the marketing and started asking questions, which is fine. Asking questions is fair. She was providing answers. He continued to take the questions up a notch to be belligerent, accusatory questions. And she continued to answer professionally while the rest of the room started becoming extremely uncomfortable. It was apparently one of the most awkward things that the group had sat through. The regular leader of the bunch was not there that night, so they had the vice chair or whatever. And I'm pretty sure I'm not pretty sure. I've asked about it. The way people felt in the room is just total shock, disbelief, and they were blindsided about this guy pitching a fit is really the best way to say it. Now, those are not the words he used or she used. It's not the words that were used back with me when I asked my friends what happens. And I got confirmation that he was just being a belligerent asshole, very inappropriate, highly disrespectful, so on and so forth. Okay. So this jackass who stands up and causes a scene at the group meeting walks away with putting everybody off. All right. You got the scene, right? Followed up by the next few weeks of continuing to do it anytime he saw a member of that group out, whether it be at a trade show or some other meeting or whatever. He continued to be accusatory of my friend and belligerent and like pushing, slander, libel, whatever that is, pushing his luck, honestly. So I'm not sure what the hell he was thinking. I could tell you right now he wasn't. Because if you were being strategic at all and actually thinking this through, um, you wouldn't cut off 80% of your referral base This man, basically, what he thought he was going to get out of it was getting rid of my friend who was doing the marketing. What he thought was going to happen completely backfired on him, because that room of people that he made to feel awkward was 80% of his referral base. 80%. So any business momentum you had, you just lost it in one hissy fit. That was it. I can't even imagine throwing a hissy fit in public like that. First of all, I can't. If I'm going to be stern or get my point across slightly bold, um, I prepare for that. I have had my own experience recently where I did just that because I knew it was coming. I knew there was going to be an episode. So I'm like, okay, how do I best prepare for this? What is our best move as a group? And the best move is, how can we get this person out of the room as fast as we can so that we as a board can discuss what we need to discuss in private? So I'm like, oh, wait, we can do an executive session that formally tells any guest, sorry, but you got to leave, get out. That's what that does. FYI, if you've never been on a board before, go to executive session. So even in my own moment, I knew the moment I had looked at this person and said, I don't think that you're going to get the solution that you're looking for today. And he spoke over me. He said, well, you need to understand. And y'all, if you see my face, I immediately went, no. And I had finger pointed and everything. And this was not the Disney 2-finger thing, like, so that you're not actually pointing inappropriately. I just went, no, you listen to me. I said, it's your turn to listen. And he was like, yes, ma'am. And I just went on to bullet point a couple of things. And then I make a motion to move us to executive session. Do I have a second? Because I already knew the instant my finger came out, the entire room was like, oh shit. And I felt it myself. Like, I felt it. So I immediately in my head, while I was talking, said, you need to get to executive session as fast as you can. That was the plan. Stick to the plan, stick to the plan, stick to the plan. And that's what I did. So I can't imagine just unleashing and having a hissy fit to where I basically lose my entire business all in one hissy fit. Why would you do that? So don't do that. Out of my own experience, it was the right move to make. I didn't waste time getting all worked up, got us to executive session. We were able to talk it out, and we're still kind of in the back and forth in this situation. However, in that moment, that was the right thing to do, and it worked well. So go me. I didn't handle it at 100%. I kind of give myself a solid B on that one. It was not an A plus at all, but it was a B. So when you aren't paying attention to how you're communicating with yourself and others, you could damage things instantly. And you don't intend to, probably. But this is why you should like check in with yourself before you enter into situations that might be shit shows that you don't really want to turn into a shit storm. So, with all of that to be said, when you work on communication skills, there's something to be said for personality assessments. So I highly recommend, if you haven't done an assessment in your business, I do that. If you've done it in a right way, they can be very fun for your team and extremely enlightening as to why people are the way they are and the way you communicate together. When I've done assessments with my clients, it's been hilarious a lot of times. And then a lot of times it helps people understand themselves. And when they, like, if you feel a little off in a day, then maybe you're not living in the lane that you need to be in normally. Your natural pattern has been disrupted. And so how to get back to your natural pattern, all of that, highly recommend it. They're so much fun. And there's multiple types out there. I tend to gravitate to something like a disc, very simple. I have a 1-pager that it feels more like a quiz than a, full on assessment. That's what part of it makes it fun. Anyway, So that's my for today, since it's the holiday season, to remind you about small business is all about relationships with yourself, your team, and everybody else. That relationships are strongly driven by your communication skills. And then also as just a little extra piece of advice for the holiday season, boundaries. Start developing some of those boundaries of not bringing that home in the family environment so that you can give your family the space for everybody to be present with each other, because this is the season to give presents. Why not make the best present your time and attention? So, with that, I hope you have a full and joyous holiday season. This won't be the last time you hear from me, but you know what? It's December 1 is when I'm recording this. We'll get this out. And this is one of those times of the year that you should just spread good holiday cheer. And with that, I've been your host, Christy Smallwood with Small Business Success Talk. Catch you on the next episode.